Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm thrilled that you all are here with us. And we got our special continuation of our festivities with the Freaky Friday crew. Mr. Kev Baker and Scotty Lopez are joining both Don and myself. We are just in a big bubble of fun right here on the Paranormal Portal. And I am absolutely thrilled to be continuing the journey right here on the Paranormal Portal. This is our fourth hour of Woo, and you're invited. So I don't know how that makes you feel, but I'm loving it. So hope you guys are having a good time, and we'll have a good time. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guests. There, Don is actually remoting in tonight. He got tied up with a whole bunch of things, so he is participating via the web. So let's get to that. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Anyone?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, hello, hello.
Welcome, guys. That was kind of the Three Stooges version of an intro. So, hello, hello, hello.
This is so weird. You know, we've just been on like Freaky Friday, and I don't know, 2 minutes to turn around and come on this show. I tell you what, we've done this pretty good with no planning, guys.
Yeah. That's how we roll, right off the cuff. But Don, you're just joining us now. How you doing, brother?
I am doing good. Who all was with us on the other show? It was Scotty and Kev. Was Joe there? Anybody else?
Yeah.
Joe, he was actually kidnapped or abducted by a grey alien halfway through the show, but he messaged me and he assures me he's enjoying his probing very much.
Well, you got to have that going for you.
Joe, that's how Joe rolls. He rolls that way, you know.
He's certainly not a xenophobe, eh?
No, exactly.
I just got to fix our on-screen chat here, so you guys talk amongst yourselves. This will just take a moment.
So how you doing there, Don, Duke, Brent, Harry? How you doing, man?
Whoever answers, right? Oh, I'm doing good. Yeah, I just had a little issue we had to take care of in the house, but everything's good now, and we'll be that way. But how was the first 3 hours?
So quick. It was amazing, right, Scott?
Yeah, man. I mean, time flies when you're having fun and when you're having like really, really good conversation and getting into just a whole plethora of just different topics and stuff. And next thing you know, you look at the clock and you're like, wow, three hours just went like that. So
Oh,
definitely good stuff, man. So
that's how we roll, though. We had some great discussions, and we're going to get into even more of them right here on the show. So I don't know. We've discussed cattle mutilations. We discussed a little bit of Bigfoot, some human hybridization. We talked a little bit about the coronavirus, and we've discussed a whole host of things. Don, were you tuning in, Don?
No, unfortunately, I was not able to. I had to figure out how to eat and do everything I had to do before the show. So, no, unfortunately, I did not. I will have to check it out, though. I know it's on Jeff's channel. So
Excellent. So
definitely worth checking out, Don. Definitely.
Excellent.
You see, Brent, I get his name okay first. I don't know what's happening here, man. It's just, I don't know.
I won't take it too personally. I won't take it too personally. It's okay. So obviously we're all paranormal enthusiasts, but I gotta ask you guys both, of all the paranormal, Kev, what's your favorite topic? I mean, what's the one that really rocks your boat and you just devour everything you can find about it?
I must admit, I like getting into the ancient woo, the kind of lost civilization type stuff. I know that's not very paranormal, but when it comes to the paranormal, I think, again, I refer back to John Keel. That book, The Mothman Prophecies, really, really had a profound effect on me. And from the paranormal events in there, you know, the Mothman, the cryptids, and again, back to those Men in Black, Brent.
Yeah.
There's something so big about that topic that I don't think we're putting our finger on. And I don't think maybe we can put our finger on it. But there's something almost I don't know, it's compelling. And like you say, I can't get enough of that stuff. Missing 411 as well. I'm pretty much into all of the woo. If it's weird and it's mysterious, it appeals to my mind. I don't know about you, Scott.
No, I'm the same way. I really can't pinpoint one specific thing because I think it's all pretty compelling and pretty interesting. I mean, lately, I've really been diving into the shadow people thing because obviously I have kind of a personal connection with that, with my brother experiencing, having shadow person experiences. Yeah, the missing 411 stuff, that has really kind of grabbed my attention lately as well. I really didn't think much about it at first. Like, I heard people talking about it and stuff like that, but never really really dug into it. But then once I started looking, I was like, wow, there really is a lot of people going missing in forests, man. And it's like, whoa, what is going on here? So that has definitely got my attention as well. Another topic, the black-eyed children.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah, the black-eyed children. That's just some freaky stuff, and I think you can tie the black-eyed children in with like the Men in Black. I think there's a lot of similarities between the two. So that's another kind of compelling topic to look into as well. But no, I'm with Kev. I think it's all on the table. I mean, just everything.
Sure.
Possessions, like exorcisms and stuff like that. That's a very fascinating thing to look into as well, because it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well,
yeah.
I agree with you guys. I don't know if there's any one phenomena that stands out to me either, but I find that what interests me, I guess, is the overlap that you end up with. Sometimes it's, and we touched on this a little bit on your show, Kev, with the Freaky Friday show. It's like how sometimes it's really hard to figure out which phenomena you're dealing with when it comes to, like, we were talking about just abductions. Sometimes they seem like they're more spiritual. Sometimes it seems like they're more extraterrestrial. Like, and again, I talked about Betty Barney Hill. That one was a very physical experience, it seems like, because there was physical evidence that they were able to examine and tie to. But so many of them, and I don't know if it's just changed how they abduct people now, or maybe that's what it is, but I find that really interesting, and I don't know quite what to do with it.
I think one of the most interesting stories of that genre for me is Travis Walton.
Yeah.
The fire in the sky guy gets kind of zapped and then taken away and turns up middle of nowhere type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that type of thing. And again, like we said, there's so many different ways to approach that, so many different umbrellas that it might fall under, interdimensional, extraterrestrial, you just don't know. But again, I think it's almost like human nature. Mm-hmm. I think, anyway, it seems natural to be drawn to these kind of weird X-File, mysterious type things. It's something about our minds. We like to try and puzzle things out. We like to kind of try and work out. And the fact that we can't work it out, I think that's what makes it 10 times more exciting, right?
Well, yeah, it's the unknown, right? It's the unknown, and we as a human species, we want to try and understand everything that we possibly can, and we have to try and unravel the mystery, I guess you could say, and I think that's what compels us to look into these things, because it's just the unknown.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it is. I really appreciate what Kev was saying about the desire for our societies to find these mysteries and to look into them and to research them, and it seems really compelling. Like, there's something about it that's, I don't know if it reminds us of another time when things were more magical or what. I don't know, but I find that really interesting.
I agree with you, Scotty, when you say, the MIB and the black-eyed children, should be looked into for a couple reasons, because, well, naturally they seem to be equally mysterious, and they seem to have kind of a very similar storyline, but also there have been reports of MIBs maybe escorting some black-eyed kids around too. So, that's a very good possibility. But I think everything's just, I think there's a lot of that's just it's all connected somehow, whether it be aliens or black-eyed children or whatever that may be. Yeah.
Yeah, I brought this up last week, I think on Freaky Friday, or maybe during the weekend stream with Kev, that I threw out the idea: what if the black-eyed children are MIBs in training?
Wow. Well, that's kind of creepy thought.
Like, I mean, or are they maybe the same? Because I personally think, MIBs, they're not human. They're definitely a different. They're an entity of some sort,
right?
And so I'm wondering if, like, maybe the black-eyed children and the MIBs are they of the same species, I guess you could say, or the same? They're the same entity, or we're dealing with this sort of group of entities.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I really think that there needs to be more looked into.
Well,
like, because I think they're like an overlapping kind of thing.
Yeah, they might be, but I will tell you that there are black-eyed adult stories too, and people have had face-to-face meetings with the black or the men in black, and they don't seem to have the entire black eyes, but people have encountered black-eyed adults, and they do seem to have the very same eyes as the kids. But that's an interesting concept.
We were discussing last week, which it was very interesting because I had never heard of it either. But they were talking about the women in black, as opposed to the men in black, and at least the experience that we were talking about last week, the woman in black had black eyes.
Wow. Okay.
And so.
Was it just the sunglasses, maybe? Sorry.
What about, see the black-eyed children? Mm-hmm. We were talking about alien abductions earlier, and if you look at the typical drawing of a grey alien, you got the big kind of black eyes we're all used to seeing. What would the hybrid child look like?
Yeah.
Did the hybrid child have black eyes? That kind of peely-wally, kind of pale complexion? It makes you wonder, right?
It does.
Is that the hybrid race that they're like seeding?
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. I never thought of that.
That is very interesting, and then that would explain maybe why. Well, okay, so let's look at some of the Men in Black too. Like even though maybe not all of the Men in Black like have maybe the black eyes or whatever, maybe that would explain why they don't understand certain human traits, like things to do. Like you hear that. Remember, it said that the lady offered them Jello, and they didn't know what to do with it, like how to eat the Jello. It's like. They have to be kind of told how to blend in with humanity, but then when it comes to certain things that are presented to them, they don't know how to respond. So maybe it's because they didn't grow up in a human environment, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's a good point.
We might have the idea for a TV show here, boys.
Whoa.
The Freaky Portal Productions.
Oh, I'm loving it already. Definitely. It sounds like we may be better in a different genre, the brown chicken, brown cow kind of genre. We love you long time. I don't know. It's you guys, this 5-hour kind of show. I'd never thought about that myself, the alien kind of connection to the black-eyed kids, but I'm telling you, I'm liking it. Yeah. I've got mind pareidolia going on. It's connecting dots that probably ain't there right now,
No, it's fantastic. I love pursuing these ideas because, quite honestly, none of us know, and we know we don't know, but we just, I mean, that's just part of the whole shtick is that we have discussions, and sometimes things pop up. The meeting of the minds, as it were,
The melding of the minds.
melding of the minds. That's Vulcan, isn't it? Vulcan mind
Yeah,
meld.
it sure is.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely.
I love my Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't? You got to have something wrong with you.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you think there's secret space stuff going on? I know it's not paranormal, but it's out there.
Yeah,
It's definitely fringy type stuff. What do you think?
absolutely. I do. I personally do. I think that there's, I mean, it's the old Eisenhower warning: beware of the military-industrial complex. And we know pretty much. I know that I believe very much that a craft was recovered in Roswell. That several other craft have allegedly been recovered. Now, those things are not officially acknowledged. Why not? Why not? Those are technologies that could benefit all of the human race, and could probably remove so many problems that we encounter. Could make them obsolete, but it's being hoarded. It's being kept, and why? Well, I think that there's just always going to be a ruling class that places themselves above us, and certainly that would include technological advances they don't want everybody to have.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there definitely is a breakaway civilization.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't even have to be like to the point of where, oh my God, there's like a breakaway civilization living on the moon and all of this stuff, which, I mean, who knows, maybe not. But there's definitely a class of people that live on a different level than the rest of us. And just that in itself is a breakaway civilization. They have access to all of the cutting edge technology. They have access to all of the cutting edge medicine. They have all of the access to all of the stuff that we don't have access to. Mm-hmm. So just by that alone, that makes that a breakaway civilization.
Yeah, exactly. Think about all the deep underground bases. Think about all of the Ark. Think about the salt caverns in Utah. And all of those places around the world, the Denver, is it the Denver airport?
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah. All those places, those are breakaway civilizations, if you ask me. I mean, they may not have left the Earth yet. However, they are ready. They're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think you're right. Yep. I think absolutely. And I refer to, and I know a lot of people give him a lot of crap, and maybe some of it's deserved. But I got to say that in the disclosure meetings that were done at the press corps in Washington in 2010, there was some pretty interesting information brought to the table there that I thought was way, I mean, that was too compelling to not be any factuality to it at all. I think there's definitely things going on that we just don't know about, and that stuff is out there.
You think of Paul Hellier as well, from the Canadian Defence Minister.
Yeah,
his testimony. I mean, the credibility of somebody like that. And I know people might say, well, he's just throwing that out there. It could be disinfo. I don't know. There's something rings true about him. Mm-hmm. Even if some of what he's saying is true. Very compelling. And it really angers me. Because we know they've got technology. And really, are we not ready by now to be told the truth about the fact that we're most definitely not alone? Right. We do have these technologies. 2020, guys, Yeah. I thought we could have been there by now. When I was growing up, I thought we would have been, at least out in the solar system by now.
Yeah, well, you'd think.
Yeah. Well, they say if Tesla would have lived and not been interrupted in his, in his studies and his experiments and all of that he was doing, we'd already be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But everything he had was allegedly buried after his death, with the exception of some things. But
and he seemed to be in communication with Martians as well, Brent.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yep. I built, well, a friend of mine built a spirit radio, but I had to repair it. One of his designs allegedly of a spirit radio, and I haven't gotten it to do much anything yet, but I keep trying it every once in a while because, that man was brilliant. That man was absolutely brilliant. And if he said something, did something, I wouldn't doubt it for a minute. I wouldn't doubt it for a minute. I think that a lot of his minds, even Paul Hutchinson, or is that his name, the Hutchinson guy? Is it
John
Paul?
Hutchinson,
John
yeah.
Hutchinson. That guy is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he's almost a modern day Tesla type character.
Yes.
Very what would you call it, eccentric with it as well. You find these boffins are almost like genius savant level Rain Men type characters, and that's in no way to put the guy down at all.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a compliment. You know, it's like I know I'll take stick for this, but Elon Musk for me as well. He thinks about problems and he approaches things differently than the rest of us would. You know, we've all thought about the flying cars, but he looked at that and said, that ain't going to work, but I tell you what will work. I'll do tunnels. You know, why hadn't somebody thought of that before? A game changer. And I know people will say, but Kev, he's a clone, he's a synth. Okay, I don't know. I haven't got any of his DNA to kind of narrow that one down yet, but I just think he's that different. It's wired differently. Call it the autism spectrum. Whatever it is, it's just wired differently, you know?
Well, I think a lot of these geniuses, these genius level savants that have existed throughout history, you know, I mean, going all the way back to, you know, the Greek times, right? You know, like Archimedes and, you know, all of these people that have pushed humanity forward in some way with their, you know, with their minds. I think that they are receiving a download somehow. You know what I mean? And maybe their minds are unlocked to something that the rest of us don't have unlocked. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the Akashic records, right?
Oh, sure.
Where supposedly all of this knowledge exists within the ether.
Mhm.
You know, that data is just surrounding us, and we can't access it somehow. But I think all of these great minds that have existed that have pushed humanity forward somehow have access to the Akashic record. So they're receiving this data that exists all around us. And because look, if you hear what a lot of them have said, they're like, well, this invention or these ideas came to me in a dream.
Mhm.
And I just woke up the next day and was like, okay, I got to start working on it. Well, that had to come from somewhere.
Right.
You know?
No, I
So-
really appreciate what you're saying, and I think you're really onto something there because I think that's the case in many composers and writers of music, myself included. I've experienced just picking up my guitar and just playing a brand new song from start to finish. Not always tight on the words, but the melody is there, the chords are there, and it just came from somewhere. And I'm like, wow, how does that happen? But, I've heard the same thing said by Eddie Van Halen, by, many other musicians. They're like pulling it from somewhere. And I think that's the way the inspiration works. I mean, how many people have just, been going to sleep and they dream someone comes to them and tells them the answer to the problem they're working on, even very technical things. It's like, my God.
Or even near-death experiences.
Right, for the Akashic records, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the access. Now, Scotty mentioned autism, and that's, I have a belief that the lower functioning autistic people with autism, that are kind of brain locked. They're nonverbal, or they have tics, or they do the hand flapping.
Mhm.
I believe kind of the same way, that they have a higher connection than we do. They're connected closer. I really do. I really think that.
I think so as well. I think there's it's just a different way that they're processing everything, and I think everything being the key word there, because I do think there's more throughput in a mind of somebody autistic than there is to any of us guys,
And if you look at
compliment, right? I mean, that's not to put anyone down, Scott. I mean, that's a compliment.
No, and that's right. I mean, look, you look at almost everybody that has been on that genius level.
Mhm.
They've all had sort of those traits of being on the spectrum, right? Like Tesla, he had like strange tics and weird OCDs. Albert Einstein, not very, good with social interaction or anything like that. Um, and you just see that consistently with these kind of genius level savants. So their brain is basically operating in a totally different. They're on a different level than everyone else.
Yeah. Well, there's the break, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to hit break number 1. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes, so don't go away for more of the fusion of Freaky Friday and the Paranormal Portal Part 2. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, we're in half hour number 2 of the 2-hour Freaky Friday festivities that are going on tonight. We have just recently completed a 3-hour run of the Freaky Friday show. And now Don and I are joined by Mr. Kev Baker and Scotty Lopez. But before we get back to that, I just want to say a special thank you to Tighten Up and Naga Ward. Both of you guys gave us some super chats. Thank you so much. And to the Naga family, congratulations on your expected new one, little one coming. So we're very happy for you. And thank you all so much for being here. We've got a record crowd here in the audience. I'm showing 110 people checking us out. So I'm just full of warm and fuzzies here as I'm sitting here in my seat, just tingling with the love you're all showing. So thank you guys for that. But let's get back to our ensemble of fun here. Gentlemen, welcome back. Hope you guys made it. Hello? I don't know.
I muted my mic.
I was muted up. I was talking away to you, Don.
It's a mutiny over there.
Don, Dave. Why?
Don't feel bad. I was muted too. I'm like talking. I'm like, oh, that's right. I can't hear myself.
They're self-punishing.
I'm thinking since Don missed tonight, guys. This has been such a success so far. You know, it'd be horrible for him to miss out on this experience, and we'll have to do it again sometime soon, right? Even though we're not finished yet. I have had an absolute blast. I do shows all the time, and there's some shows that really stick out, and this has been one of them for me. This has been old school, just going for it. Brilliant stuff, guys. Brilliant. So, Don, don't you worry, my man. You'll get the full experience. And you won't even have to pay me $5 to love you long time. Me love you long time, Mr. Longbeard. I've got it trust, man.
You guys need a room?
Yeah.
Look, Doc's looking about flustered now. He's thinking, oh no, that's mad Scots when he talks about probing people. No, he loves me long time. Don't let him into the States.
He's actually blushing. I haven't seen that before, I don't think.
I don't know about blushing. Laughing uproariously, yes.
Oh, okay, we'll call it that. Looks like blushing, though. I'm just saying.
All that you want. Whatever makes you feel good.
Well, welcome to all of you guys. As you can see, this is the kind of night we've been having. Obviously, it's been a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. No, I can't. So Chacha's asking if I can continue to mute Don. No, he's apparently he's doing it all by himself. I don't need to. It's great.
So be quiet.
But no, that's it's been great. Obviously, these kind of discussions, it's all of our wheelhouses. That's the nice thing, is that everyone in the show is involved in this in some way or another. And you guys cover a lot of this on your show. But I got to ask you, Kev. I know you've been streaming like a madman over there on your channel. How many shows are you doing a week?
Well, I've had to back off a little. I was getting corona fatigue. Yeah, I really was, and then I only really started noticing it was catching up on me.
Yeah.
And when you're doing this, you guys will appreciate it because you can go so far down the rabbit hole. You basically lose time, you know, and meals get put off, and you really got to look after yourself. So recently, Brent, I've just been doing the main KBS show on TFR, simulcasting that. You know, that's my priority. The YouTube, the fact that Chris and Cherie allow us to simulcast is amazing.
Yeah.
And we've got such an amazing family of listeners over at the Kev Baker Show YouTube channel as well. I'm hoping to get back to that extra streaming this week coming up.
Oh, cool.
There's so much going on in the world away from that corona, and I think maybe I can offer. I hate usually the talk of distractions, but maybe for once it wouldn't be a bad thing to be a distraction away from all of that, because that crap's still going to be there when the Kev Baker Show's done. It's not going anywhere, you know. And if people are anything like me, maybe we need some time talking about other stuff, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And Scotty, you've been working with Chris Everard as well, right?
I co-host with him on Sundays. He hasn't been doing the show lately on Sundays because he's been working on his sequel to his Illuminati film. So Everard's been busy with that, and plus he's been having to deal with the whole European lockdown with Corona because he lives in France, and he's kind of close to Italy, and yeah, so he's had a lot on his plate lately. But yeah, whenever he gets whenever. Oh, good. Sorry.
No, that's your own echoes.
That's your echo.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. I was like, whoa, hold on. I'm interrupting myself over here. Yeah, so whenever he gets back to doing his Sunday shows, I'll be on with him, and Everard is an amazing guy.
Yeah.
It still blows me away that he even reached out to me and wanted me to co-host with him. I'm like, whoa. Me? you want me to co-host with you? That's pretty wild, So, but yeah, he's an awesome dude. His knowledge of like the occult and all of the back history of like secret societies and stuff is just, whoa. That dude is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah,
just an absolute wealth of knowledge.
He's been on the show a few times, and I'm always amazed at how he can sit and spitball facts all day long. And just go. I mean, he doesn't have to reference anything. He's just like, well, in 1592. It's like, oh my God. He's one of those guys. So you're right.
He's a library of conspiracy.
Yeah.
He is the conspiracy what the Library of Alexandria was to knowledge for mankind,
That's why like during the break when we were hearing the commercials and Everard's commercial came on, me and Kev were kind of like chuckling and laughing at each other just because we know of it. Just Everard's the man.
He really is. He's just such a character. Yeah. He's just Chris Everard from the minute he wakes up in the morning till the minute he goes to bed at night. He's full on. I love him with bits. And again, that's just another example of one of the hosts here on the network. It's pretty crazy when you start to think about all the people that we work with here. And this 5-hour show tonight, I think this has just been the product of Truth Frequency Radio. This is the kind of thing Chris and Cherie used to do when I was first listening to them, and I used to love it when they would say, just go into overtime and be Everard there, and there'd be EA co-etting, and they'd get into all the Illuminati stuff. That was good times, man, good times. But I'm glad to see that we're teaming up, and we're hopefully up there on a par with that kind of course tonight.
Yeah.
That kind of show, sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. That's crazy. But you're right. It's such a family of incredible people. But just to comment on that, I used to love when Chris and Shree went on overtime, except when I followed them. I was like, no, don't go on overtime. Don't go on overtime. There's my audience.
That's very, very true. I never thought of that. Yeah, that could be a problem.
It was, but they are top notch. I mean, they've set they've cast the mold for all of us to follow for sure. So, I want to get back into the paranormal stuff. Lots of paranormal fun here. We talked about time slips and such on the Freaky Friday segment as well. Don, I shared with him my story of backing out in the post office. Did you hear that?
What?
Oh, never mind. You didn't even hear. Watch the Freaky Friday. You'll hear what happened to me yesterday.
No, that's a good story, man. He basically hitting things with his car that weren't there.
Yeah, I backed into something that wasn't there, dude. It was really freaky. I mean,
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, well, you'll be in the studio tomorrow, I'm sure. I'll tell you about it, but it was just crazy. Wow, it was an amazing thing. But I want to touch on some Bigfoot stuff with you guys. Obviously, what are your thoughts on Bigfoot? Both you and Scotty. Kev, why don't you go first?
I think that we're dealing with something interdimensional.
Okay.
Portals, definitely. I find it interesting how usually you find them associated with forests or over on mountains when you go to the Himalayas and things, the Yeti. And both of those, we hear about the fairy circles and things from forests, portals in there. And then you've got the Native Americans and other Aboriginal people talking about mountains being stargates. Mm-hmm. Obviously, some kind of thinning of the veil.
Yeah,
it's definitely something more interdimensional, or at least akin to being interdimensional. Obviously doesn't live here, or else somebody somewhere by now would have managed to get round all of the kind of Men in Black stuff, and we would have seen something definitive, you know. So you have to think then, well, if it's been seen here, but it doesn't live or die here, then that only leaves you a few kind of options, right?
What do you think,
Yeah,
Scotty?
I agree. I think we're probably dealing with something interdimensional. Now, when I initially started looking into the Bigfoot stuff, I sort of leaned towards the undiscovered ape species theory, you know. But then as you look more into it, you're like, okay, well, if it's an undiscovered ape species, then why aren't we finding carcasses? Why aren't we finding bones? You know, then it's like, oh, okay, well, then there's something more going on here. And then you hear encounters where people have like shot at them and they didn't kill them, or heard one story where a guy shot one and he said he shot it and it just kind of like phased out of existence after he shot it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that would like, okay, well then maybe like if they get injured or harmed or something, they phase out and back into their realm or whatever. But I definitely think we're dealing with something that is like coming through portals or like these natural stargates or these energetic anomalies that are occurring in these forests or something. So that's where I'm leaning with the whole Bigfoot situation.
Yeah.
You know, that's interesting, you know, because there's actually a story from Skinwalker Ranch. It was told on the Art Bell show, so many years ago. And it was they were talking about, there was a couple researchers out there at night. They were watching through IR goggles and watching this specific spot. And they said that with the naked eye, they didn't see anything. But through the IR goggles, someone saw a portal open up, and what they believe was a dog man walk through. Now, with that in mind, if the dog men are purportedly interdimensional, why couldn't the Bigfoot be? And what about when we talk about 411? We talk about 411, people going missing. What if they're maybe transporting through these portals, or you know, maybe Bigfoot snatching them and out the portal they go, you know? So who knows? But I think we have to run the myriad. Now, we were talking to Dr. Robert Alley this last weekend, a week ago, and he mentioned that he talked about how juvenile Sasquatch are just terrestrial. They're terrestrial. But possibly, as they grow older and they become teens or you know, older, of course, that maybe they get picked up by the mothership and something done to them that turns them into an extraterrestrial or interdimensional, or helps them make that transition. Mm-hmm. So there's just a whole bunch of ideas for you. Yeah.
You know,
wow.
What I gotta say, Don, you know what I forgot to mention? I was going to bring it up that night, but it was just such a busy night. But I had actually heard that same story that he told us about, that concept of them bringing young ones up into the, you know, to the starships and taking them for like a year or 2 years and then bringing them back. And I didn't know what to do with that, but when he regurgitated the same story, it was like, God, you know, but that's the way this works, you know. And like, I'll tell you, when I was getting involved in the paranormal, I had an idea of what the Bigfoot was. It was just this, I thought more of a hominid, but I just figured it was just wandering out in the woods and somehow was smart enough to avoid us. And that may be still true, but the more people that I've talked to having these incredible experiences with glowing eyes, seeing them phase in and out in the open, not just that they ducked behind a tree and disappeared, but seeing them phasing out physically in front of them. And it just leaves you to believe, well, either I'm talking to a whole bunch of dishonest people, or there's a real phenomena going here, and could they all be lying? And I don't think so. I think that there is something about this that I wasn't prepared for, and I'm still not sure what to do with it, but I have to admit that I have an open mind to the idea now that I never thought I would before.
Another theory that kind of blew my mind, and this was actually proposed by my mom, of all people, and I was like, whoa, that's kind of an interesting theory, is that Bigfoot could be a slave species that's being beamed down to Earth to gather resources or something, and then they're being beamed back up to the ship.
Mm.
You know,
Wow.
so that would explain like the phasing in and out. You know, and if you also look into a lot of Bigfoot sightings, there's also a lot of kind of UFO sightings that occur also.
Sure.
You find that
You know,
where you get one type of paranormal activity, Scott, you'll get several different flavors of it, like a hotspot almost, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, like so people will see lights and stuff in the forest, but then it will also be accompanied by a Bigfoot sighting. So are we talking about some kind of a correlation between the two? You know,
You know, one thing we haven't thrown out there, guys, is for the potential that Bigfoot might live in caves underground. You know, very cavernous. I can imagine some of these places, and once you get into one of these cave systems, well, you know, how do you follow something in there?
That's true. There's lots of First Nation legends of them living subterraneanly. There's belief that they travel through extinct lava tubes to do a lot of their journeys. You know, I've heard a lot of that, and you're right. I mean, I don't know. It's as good a theory as any, but what do we know?
You know, oh, go ahead, Scotty.
well, I was going to ask you, Don and Brent, have you guys ever heard of the Anukin in Alaska?
The Anukin? I don't recognize that name.
Ah, see, me and Kev, we dug into this.
Good.
We went to Lanukin a while ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the Anukin are like a cryptid. They're kind of like a small gnome-like creature
Okay.
that has been spotted in Alaska. And I'm bringing it up because this once again ties into like the portal situation. There was a story that a guy had. I think he was like a logger or something in Alaska. He spotted one of these things, and supposedly these things are like really mischievous. Like they'll throw rocks at people and stuff like that, and mess with them, you know. And so this guy was like following one, and he followed it to like the side of a mountain, and the thing, there was basically like a doorway in the side of a mountain, and the thing walked through it, and the dude followed him through it, and he lost like a huge chunk of time. Like,
Oof.
he went in there, and it only seemed like a couple hours, but when he came out, it was like 3 days later, something like that.
What that was all about, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
intense. Now, Kev, I mean, does that sound like the Fae to you? You know, of course, I'm sure being from Scotland, you must have heard the legends of the Fae and don't follow
Yeah, well,
them.
right where my mum lives, and she's listening right now. I think she's just getting ready to go to bed. It's almost 3 a.m. over here, but right beside where she lives, it's actually called Fairy Glen,
Oh.
and it's like a trail through the forest there. And yeah, I mean, people can laugh and things, but when we talk about aliens and Bigfoot, then what's wrong with fairies as well?
Right.
And I do think there are forest spirits, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
I often talk about woods. They're like magical places. They are. You know, you got the trees talking to the kind of mushrooms and the fungi down on the floor of the forest, and that in itself is like a different world. It's almost like a universe within a universe, you know?
Right.
So I do think that there's definitely something to the little people. And we had a really, really interesting guest on from Germany, didn't we, Scott? Max. And
Yeah.
he was getting into all of the stuff about First of all, it was Ragnarok, the Viking kind of Edda scrolls. And he was showing how that might actually be, you could interpret it as nuclear physics. And then he moved on to Germanic lore, and he started hitting us with all these stories about the little people, showing us these houses that looked like something out the set of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, you know? So there's a lot of stories about that. Across Europe, from what I can believe, it's quite widespread. Different names for it, but again, just different versions of the same story, I think.
I find
Thing
that
is that those tunnels actually exist. They're like real tunnels, and they're these real structures that were built that there's no way a regular sized human could. You'd have to crawl on your hands and knees to go through there.
Remember we the tunnels one night from Scotland all the way down to Turkey, and like Scott's saying, I mean, this had a scientist in there. They were on their hands and knees, and they were struggling, you know. So what on earth's name built a tunnel like that so that it could traverse from A to B?
right.
And again, what technology? Because when you look at it, it's into solid like bedrock. I mean, limestone as well, and it's perfectly. It's almost like it's been again laser cut out. It's like one kind of mechanisms just
Does it have
blasted the hole.
Does it have like a peaked roof? I'm just curious. Does it have a roof that's like built like a peak on that tunnel? Do you know?
It's almost like egg shaped, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Well, it does because those tunnels have been found in the U.S. as well. There's a researcher out of the East Coast who's found them. I think I can't remember the name of the college, but apparently where a famous college is built, they found all these weird little tunnels, and they ended up going to the burial mounds and stuff that were nearby. Yeah.
Take a look at that. I've just sent you something there, but you can see even in the thumbnail what I'm talking about.
Oh, I can't click on the link. Okay.
So it's like
Like a teardrop.
Yeah. It's an upside down egg.
Right.
Yep.
That's the way I think.
But there was allegedly, I think it was in Pennsylvania, there was allegedly found a graveyard back in the 1800s, Don. Remember the graveyard that was supposed to be all these little people, like thousands of bodies?
Right, it was like Tennessee or something like that.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and then that was, of course, the Smithsonian moved in. And
Right.
Yeah, I think we've been here in various shapes and sizes and forms. We tend to look back at the Egyptians, and then we shift the date, you know, back to maybe 12,000 years ago with Göbekli Tepe and things. But I think we're only scratching the surface, you know.
Artifacts.
Yeah. How many
Artifacts.
times have we done this, boys? How many times have we been here? You know, we've reached this part, and
Let's get into
You know
that
what?
on the next segment because I want to talk about that artifacts out of time and stuff, some of the weirdness that has been discovered around the world, ladies and gentlemen. Artifacts that are not just hundreds and thousands of years old, but they are allegedly millions of years old that seem to suggest advanced populations existing here on our planet. So,
you know, you just look at some of the stonework over in South America. You can't really put a bit of paper in between it. It's almost like it's been fused together, no gap in between it. And then you go across to places in Egypt, you see the same technique. Not not exactly the same, but very similar. And you go to places like China, Tibet, and you start seeing the same stonework.
yes.
I mean, this is a high technology. It might not be anything like what we've got, but we can't replicate what they done back in those days when they had chicken bones and no wheels. So, you know,
Yeah. Carving granite out of chicken bones is a real skill that's been lost to time.
the chicken bone kind of architects, builders. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yes, it does. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up on the hour break. Only 1 hour to go, gentlemen. We've been at this for almost 4 hours now, and it's been like feels like 20 minutes. I mean, it really does.
I think we could do a 24-hour one. I think we could. I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
I'd be game to see how far we could go.
I think we could easily do 8.
Oh yeah, I think we
I
could
think
too. And
next year we'll be doing a 24-hour show. No problem.
But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our hour break here on the Paranormal Portal. So stick around. We're going to get into a lot more of this. Stick around after the show. Coming up on TFR Live is Paisley Wild, The Spaces Between. She's got a great show of her journey into her pagan journey. It's really, really amazing. She's a wonderful guest or a wonderful host, has amazing guests, and covers some really cool topics. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. And she also streams live on Don, remember to unmute after the break. That's like the she also has a streaming on her YouTube channel as well, which is youtube.com/spaces between. So the spaces between rather. All right, guys, we're going to go to our break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart.
plan is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
And so does that intro, ladies and gentlemen. So does that intro. Welcome back. We are back at it here on the Paranormal Portal, Freaky Friday hybridization of entertainment right here in front of your eyes. This is what the offspring of the Freaky Friday and the Paranormal Portal coming together produces. Oh, Jesus God. There's... hi.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Don, way to get us censured. Beep.
And I just unmuted my mic, too.
Just in time for a little profanity. That's... Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the fun you've been missing if you just showed up now. But thank you for showing up now and being a part of it. We got 1 hour to go here on the Paranormal Portal with the Freaky Friday, bringing you a very freaky Friday the 13th. And it's been an epic journey. Yeah, it's been amazing. How you guys doing over there? Good?
Yeah.
Loving it.
You holding up pretty well? 4 hours of show
I
under your
was
belt?
thinking, maybe we should just go for 10 hours. 5 just isn't long enough,
Yeah, it's really not. I mean, we could do this standing on our head.
I think people might have enjoyed this too much. We might have really this might be bad boys. People expect this every Friday the 13th,
How many of those are there a year? How many Friday the 13ths are there in a year? How many?
I think somebody's looking it up.
What the hell's going on in your screen, Don? You look like a rockhead over there or something. You're really blurry, though. All right.
I can't find my other ones.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about all things paranormal and woo here on the Paranormal Portal Freaky Friday combination show. And just before the break, we kind of touched on the phenomena of artifacts out of time, which seem to suggest that civilization has existed not for hundreds or thousands of years, not for 10,000s, not 100,000s, but perhaps millions or hundreds of millions of years. For instance, we'll just bring up the story of the London Hammer. And the London Hammer is an artifact that was found in Texas, the city of London, Texas, or the surrounding area. A couple was out walking and found this rock with this strange stick emerging from it, but embedded in it. And they were perplexed because it wasn't as if the something had just grown through a rock and cracked it or something. There was a hole in the rock where the stick was coming out, perfectly formed to the stick itself. So they brought it home, cracked open this rock, and what they found inside was basically what looks like a blacksmith's hammer embedded in the rock. Now, they had the rock tested by geologists, and this rock was apparently 300 to 400 million years old by the geological record that they determined that age by. And encased in this rock was this hammer. The handle, which was made of wood, was so old that it was both carbonizing, turning into charcoal, and petrified wood at the same time. And the hammerhead was absolutely well preserved inside, and it was made from iron. So, what do you make of that, guys?
Wow.
Oh. That is wild, man.
Yes.
That there is very, very interesting, I must admit.
Now, here's the question. I mean, could we be looking at an artifact from an ancient civilization that existed way, way before? I'm talking like Atlantean
perhaps
age, or even before that. Because I think we've gone through these cycles many, many times. Like, I believe maybe the Atlantean civilization was built on top of another civilization, and, you know, so on and so forth, that maybe the Atlanteans were talking about a civilization that once existed before them that they saw as their Atlantean civilization. You know what I mean? And I think that these artifacts do exist out there. And, you know, maybe we're talking about a hammer or a tool that one of these super ancient civilizations, you know, maybe somebody utilized it, threw it out in the mud somewhere somehow, you know, and then over the years it compacted, became rock, you know, and we're looking at a million-year-old art, you know, an artifact that's millions of years old, but it has been preserved.
I like what you said, Scott, you know, with Atlantis, they would have looked back to a previous, almost Atlantis-type civilization, and that civilization probably looked back to one in the myth before them, and you can easily see how this could go on and on and on. And then you come across that mud flood thing, and I mean, I've not gone, like, full down the rabbit hole, but this reset, you know, this evidence, like, we talked earlier on about the stone circles in Loch Ness, you know. I mean, the Earth has changed. The geography, the poles shifting. It really does beg the question, how long have we been doing this for? I mean, literally, all of us here. I mean, I think we are characters in this game, for lack of a better term. We come back in different forms. Maybe we come back as different species sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think we've been here not just a couple of times before, maybe many, many, many times. And then how do you escape that cycle then?
Mm-hmm. See,
well, you know,
go ahead.
I'm okay. Sorry. But you know, and that's a good point, because you think back, you know, you talk about mud floods. You can even talk about the biblical deluge. You know, you can talk about the things that came before, because the Sphinx in Egypt has the markings, the erosion from rains that it hasn't seen in thousands and thousands of years. If you talk about the mini ice age 13,000 years ago, if you talk about even our Palouse Prairie right down the road from us, you know, there are the glacier cuts through there, you know, Pothole State Park in Washington State, you know, and all across the northern part, southern Canada, northern U.S., you know, you've got to ask the question, how many times have we gone under? How many times has an advanced civilization, a civilization that was more advanced than us, have been killed off? Or what if you go by the idea that they like, some people believe that Mars is no longer habitable because they came to the Earth. What if at some point they went to Mars and they became uninhabitable and they came back?
Good point. Now, what that phenomenon seems to suggest to me is either there's some kind of pattern on our globe of development and reboot and development and reboot and development and reboot, or this is proof potentially of time travel, of people finding ways to travel back in time. Are they going there and then dropping items that became things we're finding today?
Well, but think about this too, though. That's, you know, there are so many little things like that. But think about the 2 million old fission reactor that was found in Africa that has no business being there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think back to what Max from Germany was talking about, Ragnarok as well. When he was talking about 118 warriors leaving so many doors, and He says, you know, when you actually line this up, all the numbers, they correspond with nuclear physics. You know, and these documents are like thousands of years old. And then you've got instances as well where I know they say that there's glass in the desert somewhere. Can only have been done fusion, you know, that heat from a nuclear device. Yeah, it does make you wonder. And then look where we are now in this cycle. And obviously we can't compare it to all the previous cycles, but maybe for the first time ever, with the fact that they're getting ready to chip people, neural lace, virtual reality, maybe they can almost like cheat this cycle. Not in physical form, but in digital form.
That's an interesting thought. Wow. Yeah. I think that's very interesting. Wow. I just think that, you know, there's other instances of things being found. There was a site, I think in Europe, where they were excavating a site, and they found a piece of machined aluminum among mastodon bones that were in the embankment near a river. Now, machined aluminum didn't exist until the 20th century, or was it in the 1800s or 1900s anyway? Right? So
yeah, and there's also another instance. I don't know exactly where, but they found titanium spheres embedded in rock that was dated millions of years old, and it's like, how did titanium, you know, and they were like perfectly machined, smooth titanium spheres, and how did they end up there? You know, it's like,
it cooks your bacon, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to make of this stuff, but I think it's.
And you've got that place as well. Had Klaus Donner on the show one time, the Austrian kind of museum curator, but he does all that kind of out of place archaeology, out of time archaeology, and he was talking about old maps. And then there was this place called High Brazil that was just off Ireland, you know, out in the Atlantic, and they reckon they got the name for that because it was. People had thought they had journeyed over to South America, and so they thought they were hitting there. That's how the story goes. But this place appears on maps, Brent. You know, it's several different maps. This landmass just out of off Ireland. Yet there's nothing there. You know, we've no record of that there today. Yet there's all these stories about how this island would sometimes appear. Out of nowhere and go away again, but it must have appeared to the point where, you know, people put it on a map. You know, so I don't know. It's really, really strange.
It really is. It really cooks your bacon. I don't know, but I just find it really peculiar, and I haven't heard any debunking of any of this. It's like. What I think mainstream science just stays the hell away from it. They won't even acknowledge its existence. But
yeah, when it comes to the archaeology, they'll just say pseudo-archaeology, pseudo-science. They don't actually like come and have the conversation. They'll just not. And you got to remember, these people have spent careers writing books on their own given theory, and you know, these new ideas will. That kind of calls into question maybe 40-year writing career, 10 books down the line, and. So I don't know, maybe that's why they're not quite as open to some of these new ideas. But I think with the new archaeologists coming through and speaking to several scientists in different fields, it's quite encouraging because new ideas, we often think in science, be it archaeology or physics, it's a very much closed shop and you just repeat the theories of the past. But you actually speak to these people and know that they're having the same similar conversations to what we're having here, be it on archaeological digs or in a lab somewhere. They're as steeped in the woo, if not more so, than us guys.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And what about what they don't talk about in the open? What do you think they talk about amongst themselves regarding these kinds of things?
Well, look at that clip on the. People probably fed up with me playing this and talking about it, but Chelsea Handler show, and it was the head of the Department of Energy, Ernest Monst, and they were talking about Stranger Things, the TV show where the Department of Energy are in other verses, and the Upside Down, and he's talking about, we use quantum computers, and yes, we do actually work in other dimensions. And everyone just sat there and he's like, well, yeah, technically we do. And he didn't deny it. He openly talked about how they're working in other dimensions, you know?
Wow. What the hell does that mean? That's kind of scary.
And that was the head of the Department of Energy. Scott, you've seen that clip many a time with me as well, right? I mean, you've got actors there, Chelsea Handler. She doesn't know what to make of it. You know, it's like he drops the bombshell. They're all sitting there, wow, fiction to us, but fact to you then. He's like, yeah, it's just my day job.
Yeah, it was the way he said it too. You know, they were all like just joking around with it, and he's like, yeah, well, you know, we actually do work in other dimensions, and they all just kind of looked at him like, what? He's like, yeah, well, we do. They're like, oh, okay.
That's crazy.
So if they're talking about that in public, what on earth's name are they doing?
Right.
Well,
From prying eyes.
Right. Well, the best place to hide things is in plain sight. And so look at anything that's going on anymore. You know, it's just so plain to the woke person. You know, but you know, and I do mean air quotes literally because you know, woke is a state of mind. It's not necessarily a physicality. But if you look at these things that they're saying, you know, as you just said, the head of the DOE, and even things Paul Hellyer has said, and things that just all these Eisenhower back in the day, like Brent mentioned earlier, you know, all of these people have already told us it. Why are we not listening?
It's a good point.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Sorry, I was just there was somebody in chat that was talking about in the TFR chat, and I missed it, but I just saw it now that he actually dreamed winning lottery numbers, 5 of the 6 winning lottery numbers, but he didn't play.
Oh.
Yeah, how about that? Wow.
Oh,
You gotta go with your gut instinct on that stuff. And if you're dreaming lottery numbers, I would just play them just to play them, man.
Yeah.
Just do it. You know, if you got numbers coming to you in your dream, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about like the Akashic records and stuff. That was like a download that you probably should have jumped on.
Yeah.
You know, going back to these artifact things though, right? I mean, there's a lot of interest in artifacts, right? And I think one of the really interesting examples would be the Iraq War and how immediately the American military, special forces, like started raiding the Iraqi museums and looking for artifacts, right? Because I mean, we're talking about the Middle East. We're talking about that region, that Sumerian region, all of that stuff. And what is the strategic importance of securing a museum and taking artifacts away? Well, when you're talking about it doesn't make any sense on its surface. But if they're looking for something, if they're looking for artifacts,
and they weren't the first. I mean, you think of the bad guys in World War II. They spent a lot of time and effort looking for things a bit, you know, out there.
Himmler had an entire division of a whole group of people looking for artifacts around the planet, and they did it because they felt that these artifacts had some kind of power, some kind of a, you know, we can, you know, now we can get into even more woo because, you know, they felt that these artifacts had supernatural or even paranormal kind of power to them, that it would give them that kind of power. So there's definitely something to the whole artifact thing. I mean, people are still looking for the Ark of the Covenant. That's an artifact, right? That has a lot of crazy properties to it. You know, if you're
Oak Island.
Okay. Yeah.
In the swamp, man. It's in the swamp. I'm telling you.
Is that where you think it is over there, Kev? In the swamp part?
Yeah. I think the whole leaving the big hole at the money pit was the deception, and I think that it was to take the kind of attention away from what is quite obviously a Masonic triangle swamp that was quite obviously man-made before they tested it and proved it. And I think they sunk a ship in there, whatever was there. I don't know. I think the whole money pit thing, though, coming along and seeing that big freshly dug hole and all these elaborate things, 10 feet down, 20 feet down, that sounds to me like a kind of wild goose chase.
Yeah.
It's hidden in another bit,
Yeah, it's real Indiana Jonesy, isn't it? I mean,
Oh, it's amazing. It is so amazing. I'm hooked on that show. I truly am. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. Have they found anything of significance other than?
Well, they've actually, it's quite interesting because we talk about cycles and things,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't prove this, but I think we're looking at different cycles that have occurred on that island as well.
Sure.
Because sometimes you're talking about the wood, and there's these nails, iron kind of binding things that they found, and you're talking about 1700s to 1750 time, and then they found bones from one was Middle East descent, one was European, and that was like 100 foot down. How can these bones end up 100 foot down? So that does suggest there's something going on there. I think there's enough that they found to justify the money they're putting in, and what they're doing down at the bay. They knew about an L-shaped structure from searchers in the past, but they've never had the technology to kind of stop the water, the tide coming in. And the brothers that are doing it, they really are genuinely, they've grown up their whole life with that story, and they're doing it for the best of reasons. They're preserving everything. They've got the museum there. They're not in it for money. They're already millionaires. They've got a vineyard here and stuff there, but they keep pushing further out into this bay, and they've got it all dammed off. And they're finding what looked like a big slipway last year, and that was dated back to the 1700s, so probably original work. But now they've pushed out a bit further, and there's even more works. Now, you got to remember, at the time, 1700s, sea level, that would have been 7 feet under sea level. And yet there's evidence of tunneling. And how could they have closed that water off back in the 1700s? Again, they've got boats and things, but it's just so elaborate. I don't know if there's layer upon layer, and
and they
there could be anything.
And the things that they found there, it covers such a wide swath, like a timeline. It goes from like 1700s, and they found things that date all the way back to like the 1400s.
Yeah.
Or even earlier, because there's some stuff that they don't even know how old it really is. And so it seems like that island was utilized and repurposed many different times. And there's a lot of things there to suggest that, let's just say Christopher Columbus didn't discover.
And with being a strong Templar connection, that obviously ticks my box because we've got Rosalind Chapel over here. And Rosalind Chapel, they think, may have one time been the resting place of the Ark of the Covenant. When they came here, when they fled France, and when they left Scotland, they went over to the New World, And that's how you find so many Scottish names up there in Canada, Nova Scotia, New Scotland, for goodness sake.
Well, they didn't have global warming back then either, so that might be part of it.
Oh, don't tell Greta, she'll crack up.
How dare you?
Who brought Greta? She wasn't invited.
Although, if anyone's seen the photo of Greta, and it looks like she's a time traveler, because it's like maybe late 1800s or something, and she's blatantly in a photograph working in a field.
It's kind of fitting that we're discussing Oak Island and the Templars, because it is Friday the 13th.
Oh, look at that! You see, I'd planned that all along, Brent. I planned that all along.
Took you long enough to break it up, but thanks for doing it.
You got to keep the cliffhanger till almost the final segment,
Yeah, we're just about there, ladies and gentlemen. We got one break just ahead of us, about a minute away, and we will continue for the last half hour of our 5-hour Woo Marathon. I hope you guys have been with us the whole run, But if you haven't, yeah, it doesn't feel like 5 hours. You're right, brother. It feels like about maybe 45 minutes. It really does. It is cruised by. But we are going to be right back after the break. Please stick around after the Paranormal Portal for the spaces between. Pays a while to be coming on after us and putting on her magic that she does. Great show, and hopefully you guys will check it out and show her some love. You can always check it out on TFR, or you can head over to YouTube where she streams live on her The Spaces Between channel. So we're going to go to our last break. Don't go away. We'll be right back for 30 more minutes or 27 more minutes, however many minutes of fun. So we'll be right back. It's got an echo. Ding, ding. no idea why the hell that's so noisy, but I guess it's done now. It's better. It just got better. So we got that going for us, ladies and gentlemen. This is the last segment of our 5-hour marathon that we've had in conjunction with the Freaky Friday show. Our guests tonight are Mr. Kev Baker and Mr. Scotty Lopez, and they are both joining us here live via Skype. And Don's via Skype, too. It's just me in the studio. I'm all by myself, but they're keeping me all warm and cuddly here with their great, entertaining discussion. So, hope you guys have enjoyed it.
Hi, Brent.
What?
Is it scary in the portal tonight without me?
No, it's fine. That's where I live. So, but it's always nice when you're able to make it. But at least you're able to make it this way. So I appreciate that. That's always a plus. We are in the last half hour, guys. Can you believe it?
Doesn't feel like 5 hours.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Scotty, how you holding together, brother?
I'm here, man. I'm ready to rock and roll, dude.
Yeah, we are doing great. We got a lot more ground to cover. But as you predicted, Scotty, you said after this 5 hours, I'll bet you we'll just be like, there's so much more we can discuss. And we've not really even scratched the surface here. We really haven't.
I'm telling you, we need to do it again on the next Friday, the 13th. I'm feeling it coming on.
When is the next one? Anybody got a clue? Now we're all going to be referencing our calendars. Any of you in the chat room want to help out? You can. When is the next Friday the 13th?
November the 13th.
Oh.
Yeah, long way.
That's a long way away.
Long way away.
I'm sure we can find a suitable
alternative
celebration in the summertime, break it up.
I think we should. I think we should definitely do it again and again. This is obviously a recipe. We've never seen crowds like this in the Paranormal Portal live stream on YouTube. So thank you all to all of you who are checking us out. We hope you like what you're seeing.
You, man, it's Scott's groupies. He brings groupies with him, man.
We love you, Scotty.
Scotty, you have to come back. It'll be just grow a beard. We require some kind of facial hair here on the studio.
Yes, and I must say, Don, you have a fantastic. It's a glorious beard, my friend.
It really is.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's very nice facial furniture you're sporting there.
Yeah, it's a nice soft spot for landing on.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, my friend. Indeed.
Yes,
time. $5 he charges, I'm telling you.
I don't even want to know what that means, but I'm gonna leave.
Don does.
I bet he does. That's
good old Luke Skywalker.
So
where are we going now, Brent?
I want to go to Ancient Aliens because I think we've kind of waltzed around it, and we've talked a little bit about it, but. What do you guys think of sites like Gobekli Tepe, or however you say that, Puma Punka, all of these ancient sites that seem to suggest some kind of help from very advanced civilizations? What do you guys think, Kev? Or Scott, either one.
Okay, so like I'm kind of torn on some of the sites, right? Like some of the sites I think were built by ancient civilizations with high technology, a la Atlantean sort of sites that we're looking at. Although there are some sites that I do believe may have been built by extraterrestrials, or that there was, I guess you could say, the sky gods that came down and built these sites. I definitely believe that the Great Pyramid is one of those that may have been built by, or because, look, the Great Pyramid is like super, super old. In fact, the Egyptians, they came across that thing and it was already built. Mm-hmm. And they simply tried to emulate that afterwards. That's why when you see all of the pyramids that came afterwards, they were not like these perfect pyramids. They in fact degraded over time. And so you would think that if a culture was building pyramids that they would get better at it, right? Not get worse at it.
Right.
So I think they came across I think they came across this ancient structure, possibly that was created, built by aliens. In fact, Kev, a while back, you brought up the point that if you translate the word Cairo, it literally means what, Mars?
Yeah, it's in Arabic it's Al-Kahiri, and that translates to Mars.
Wow. I did not know that. That's deep.
Yeah.
So, could we be looking at basically like a Martian outpost or base that was set up when they traveled from Mars to Earth, and that's what the Great Pyramid was? Now, I ascribe to the notion that we came from Mars, that we traveled, or at least a species traveled from Mars, came to Earth, and either genetically spliced, kind of hybridized with the species that was already on the planet, the hominid species that was already on the planet, created a hybrid race, and that's probably what we are. Now, if you want to look at it from biblical terms, I mean, I guess you could see those as fallen angels or the Nephilim or anything like that, or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I also kind of like Don's idea. Maybe we were in this cycle where we were bouncing back and forth from Earth to Mars. Maybe that also plays into the thing that we've been talking about, Kev, with the, Ben Davidson and Suspicious Observers talking about this.
Galactic current.
This galactic current that comes in. Basically, it's like a galactic wave that creates a cycle of pulsing our star up. Maybe there's this cycle where Earth becomes inhabitable, so we have to go to Mars, and then Mars becomes inhabitable, so we have to come back to Earth, and we're just bouncing back and forth between the two. I don't know, but yeah, definitely the ancient alien thing. That's totally on the table for me. I think like Puma Punku is like one of the really good examples of that.
Yeah, you got the stories from the Anunnaki, the Enki, the Enlil. There's some kind of genetic manipulation. And you think about it, Brent. I mean, we were talking about the present day abductions that go on.
Yeah.
The hybrid program that's running right now. A couple of thousand years from now, they'll be the ancient aliens of that time, right? What's going on right now? So it's almost like there's been a constant relationship, for lack of a better term, intervention, maybe steering us more than we think. And you can go to somebody like, David Icke. Mm-hmm. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but sometimes I do have to wonder if the people running this planet, they must be controlled by some outside entity, right? Call them reptilians, whatever, you get into the bloodline stuff. Like Scotty says, I do think there's something that's been playing around down here, whether we're, I don't know, it's almost like we're on the people farm, and they do as they please, and every cycle comes, and maybe they tweak here and twink there, I don't know, it's just, but I do think so, yeah.
Here's an interesting thing I was going to say, here's another interesting thing to think about, right? So we're looking to colonize Mars right now, right? Elon Musk, we're all in this kind of this race to go to Mars. So say we do get to Mars, say we do set up colonies, and then eventually, we eventually start evolving on Mars, that millions and millions of years. Do you think that civilization, after millions and millions of years, would be thinking about the initial people that came to the planet? That they would know nothing better they would know nothing else than just living on Mars, and maybe they would have their own ancient alien theory. Maybe some people came from Earth and colonized the planet and built this structure or something, and of it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
I do.
Well, Scotty, you brought up that point about the pyramids and things like that, and how I just mentioned that it's got the erosion that it hasn't seen, and you brought that point up, but it's interesting because there was a book, I can't remember what the heck it was called. It was called the Rise of the Gorilla King or something like that. It was a book that was written about how possibly an alien species came to the Earth and spliced with the hominid population, enslaved us to mine gold and other precious things, and then all of a sudden they just kind of disappeared. So it is an interesting a tie-in. Now, to go back to what I said about have we been bouncing back and forth between the two planets, there is nothing that says no, that's not possible, because we don't know. We have no idea if we've ever been here before or if we've ever been there before. So and I like the way you think, my friend. I really like the way you put that across. But what's to say that if Mars was colonized and we're only one species that came to Earth, what about possibly other species that went outside there?
Back. And look, the whole like Anunnaki thing, creating a slave species to mine gold and stuff. I brought this point up too. How come humans have such a fascination with shiny things in the ground? How come we when we dig, we're like, ooh, look, there's a shiny object in the ground, and we cherish like gems and shiny objects and gold nuggets in the ground.
And then talking about South Africa, remember? The miners were going down, and when they would get so far down, they would have like the wall cave in. Oh, what's in there? Another mine. Thousands of years old, where these ancient people that we've got no kind of recollection of were going down, and it blew me away because they'd actually stripped all of the gold out there, but they'd left the platinum behind. That was obviously of no worth to them, so all the platinum slag was still lying around, and it does make you wonder. And Scott, you're so right, that thing with gold, we attach so much monetary value to it, but again, even when you get engaged, the ring, the gold ring, and there's something about it, dude.
I think it is a genetic trait that has been engineered into us because we were a slave species that was used to mine it, and so they needed to create, like I said, a species that was looking for this stuff. They needed gold, they need somebody to mine it, so you gotta engineer workers that are looking for that. So
every time you have this reset, Scott, do you think then they come back, they know when the reset is, and we start mining again? And we get all of the stuff out that's of value to them, and then we start the cycle again, trying to remember where we came from, where we're going, and then we get back to the beginning again.
And then are we also trying to mimic them too? Like almost like the Egyptians tried to mimic the we saw that they put value on gold and these elements, and so we're like, well, then we need to have that, emulate that, put value on this element that they revered so much. And honestly, you look at gold, basically that's an element that's needed for electronics and high technology. It's utilized in space ships and travel, and so obviously an advanced species would need to utilize gold in that way. So yeah, like I said, ancient alien theory, totally on board with it. I think that there is a lot of evidence there to support that, and yeah,
It's crazy.
You
But
know, there could be galaxies out there teeming with life, but because they're so far away and because of the expansion of the universe and things, you know, the light that comes from them, we would never see it anyway.
right.
You know, we would never detect it. And there could be so much out there. We don't even know if it's infinite. We're in a bubble, expanding, contracting, simulation.
Sure.
How people can really so staunchly sit there and absolutely rubbish the whole potential for any other life out there. At this point, it baffles me. It really baffles me. It does. Now, that doesn't mean that I know for a fact there is life out there, but when you play the math, you know, odds like that, I think I'll take my chance at somewhere.
You know, I gotta wonder though, do you guys have an opinion on why does it seem in this ancient past that they were so directly involved in helping us and modeling our societies and modeling our structures, and it seemed that they probably may very well have taught us a lot of the things that we rely on now in architecture and crop yielding and such like that. Is it possible that they brought?
Maybe they come back, Brent. Maybe let Scott add to it, but maybe they come back after the reset. You know, they give us, you know, a bit of the knowledge we need. You know, help us through that tough time. I don't know. It's just something I have thought about that.
Yeah.
Though. I have thought about that.
Me too, because it seems like are these test runs? Is this all test runs to see how we turn out? And if it looks like we're screwing up, it's like, oh God, let's wipe this one out and start over. You know. Go ahead, Scott.
Nah, I mean, that's possible, and also, I mean, I say slave species, and I don't like to kind of utilize. I don't like to say that word. I mean, yeah, maybe we were used to help mine gold and stuff, but maybe they looked at us as, hey, you know, they're our creation. You know, we created them. Maybe it's also a way of them embedding themselves and carrying on their progeny, right?
Maybe that's the way it works. Maybe somebody gave them a leg up when they were a young civilization.
Right.
Yeah, you know. So in a way, like maybe a form of panspermia. You know, maybe they couldn't exist on this planet in their form. Maybe the atmosphere or something didn't completely jive with them. So they had to kind of cross themselves or splice themselves into a species that already existed on this planet, and that's how they carried on. So if that's the case, then they would have to teach them some basic things, you know, mathematics or give them kind of a leg up, and they go, look, eventually down the line they're going to reach a point to where we're at, but it's going to take time for them to evolve. It's going to take time for them to go through all of this stuff and learn all of this stuff. So maybe that's what's going on. I don't know, man.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. It's mind-boggling stuff, you know.
Yeah. It's good woo, I tell you.
This whole night's been good woo. It's been great.
It's been awesome. I can't think, well, there's so much we haven't touched on, but at the same time, there's so much we have touched on as well. You know, it's not as if we've missed much out, but at the same time, my head's telling me, Kev, there's so many other ways you could go right now in so many other directions. And like we said, boys, we were right. We're all right, you know.
We could go so many different, like right now I'm thinking about like Stull, you know, into all of that stuff. And
tell Brent about that, man. That place is like, I mean, that's the place that the Pope wouldn't fly over.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know about Stull, Kansas.
I've heard of it.
Like,
yeah.
I literally
the church.
I literally live. Yeah, the church in Stull, Kansas. Yep. I literally live like 15 minutes from it. So
well, there might be the reason for your booms.
it's only a gateway to hell after all, Scott. I mean, gateways to hell, I'm sure there's some kind of sound comes off them, right?
Someone's slamming the door in hell.
Yeah. Yeah, that place is wild. They've demolished the church though a while back, and it's just a pile of rock. Yeah, but people still go out there, and really a lot of the activity doesn't even revolve around the church. It revolves around the tree where the witches were supposedly hung, and yeah, it's definitely a wild place, and for those of you out there who don't know about Stull, I mean, just look it up. Supposedly, there's a stairway to hell that opens up on the spring equinox and on Halloween.
Wow, that's a creepy thing, and I'm glad nobody's found it.
Well, just Zach Baggins, he might have found it.
He's some dude. He really is. But Alaska, Brent, Don, me and Scott often talk about, these are really, really paranormally charged, supernaturally charged times that we're living in.
Yeah.
All of the weirdness around us. But do you think that is an increase in that kind of woo? Or do you think every generation's thought that? Is it just the information we have at our fingertips now? Or is there really something physically changing in our reality? What do you think, guys?
Well, Don, why don't you go first, because I know you got to jump out quick.
Yeah, I got to jump out because Paisley uses my studio for her show. But, I don't know, but I think if we just go back and reference what we've talked about, just in the last, 45 minutes, if we go back and talk about how if there's a cyclic nature to our civilizations, if there's, a possibility that we've been here before, we've evacuated for one reason or another, and then we went to Mars and did the same thing, or whatever that may be, however you may look at that, I think that it's absolutely possible. Even when we were talking about the out of place artifacts, it's absolutely possible that we've absolutely been here before, and all of these things have happened maybe in a different way, and I think that the awakening, the spiritual awakening, not the awokeness, I think that is the thinning of the veils, the things like that we talk about, our awareness rising, and I think it's quite possible that we're going through a cycle where it's really starting to show. Say, starting back at 1938, 1939, when Hitler took over, started taking over Poland and then just ran through Europe like you wouldn't believe. Maybe that was like the thinning of the veil. The Jehovah's Witnesses believe it, so why not? But I think it's very possible that we're just being
What?
That was weird. That was like his voice went into
Yeah.
somebody else's. Ooh.
Welcome to the portal, boys.
Yeah.
I was going to play Greta, but I apologise, Brent. I triggered somebody in your chat room earlier on by playing that. She's 17. She's not a child. And if I get accused of stealing her childhood, then I'm surely allowed to play her sound clips.
How dare you?
How dare
But
you?
yes, I do apologise, Brent. I do apologise. I've not been very house-friendly today at all. Been quite unruly.
But fellas, I got to jump out. I'm so sorry I wasn't with you for Kev's show. And we'll have to make it happen again. Stuff happens, life happens. But I got to go because Paisley's got to jump in here and do her show. So
Anytime.
Excellent.
Awesome.
I appreciate you guys. Brent, we'll talk to you tomorrow. And people in the chat, our regulars, love you. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
See ya.
This has been a blast.
Yeah,
It really has been a blast, man.
We're down to the last minute, gentlemen. I can only say take a moment, in case people are not aware of who you are, to let them know.
Well, I'm Dave Baker. I've got a show called The Kev Baker Show. It runs Monday through Thursday. You find me right here on the network, tfrlive.com, the home of The Kev Baker Show. And you'll find me over on YouTube, and I'll be on the weekend with Scott, and Joe and Popeye on Sunday. So yeah, you can catch me on the YouTube channel then.
Okay, and Scotty?
I'm just the wingman.
He's the wingman.
The man of mystery, man. He just floats in from show to show whenever Ard needs him. You know?
Yeah, I just kind of phase in and out of existence. And so that. Yeah, you can catch me with Kev on the weekends and on Freaky Friday, and whenever Chris Everard does his show on Sundays, I'll be riding shotgun with him as well. So,
and I want to thank you, Brent. It's been an absolute joy to do this show with you, man. It's been great. It's been even better than I thought it would be, and it's great teaming up with the Paranormal Portal.
Well, thank you guys. And thank all of you out there. Thank you for tuning in. 124 tuned in for this show. 125 just went up, but love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.